Hey, beautiful people. Today I'm here to talk about how to encourage innovation as a team, how to create the conditions, not just the ideas. As a total side note, one important thing you should know about is I always come into these videos with a huge big smile on my face because the team here are so much fun and we have laughs, and invariably we're launching into a video with a huge big smile. So I'm happy to see you, but I'm also having a good laugh with my team here. They're just amazing. Are you tired of telling your team to be more innovative and just having nothing happening and being responded to maybe with blank stares? What if innovation isn't about brainstorming and ideation, but it is actually about listening and commitments and trust? I want to introduce you to what most leaders get wrong about innovation and what you can do differently. By the end of this video, you are going to know how to create the conditions for innovation so that innovation emerges and you don't have to force it or push it or cheerlead it. Innovation doesn't just start with ideas, it starts with concerns. And here's the difference is you can have all the brainstorming sessions that you want and you can come up with ideas for things, but those ideas are lots of times disconnected from the reason why the person said them in the first place, the reason why they mattered to someone. And if you can bring yourself and your team to the point where you are listening for what matters, it becomes the springboard for some small, incremental, and then ultimately great innovations. Because innovation, the way that I believe it is optimally practiced, and I've done this work with multiple multinationals at this point, is that it really has to do with listening. It has to do with understanding what people care about, understanding what's going to make their lives better, understanding what it is that they value, understanding how it is they see the world and why they see the world that way, and beginning to tap into their perception and then what it is that really matters to them in terms of value and in terms of what you can offer to them as value, and also what it is that they are going to consider valuable, whether they purchase it or whether it's some feature or some technology or some offering that your company is going to make to your customer base. I'm not saying that brainstorming doesn't have a place in the innovation process, but I would strongly recommend that you begin with a process of listening before you really dive into looking to innovate. The most effective way that I have found to build innovation as a practice inside your organization is, first of all, to recognize that it is a practice, that it is something that you can start small with and you and your team can get progressively stronger and better with it and build more capacity around it over a period of time. So if you practice a sport, if you play a musical instrument, if you do yoga, if you climb mountains, you already understand the idea of practice. You understand the idea of starting by making mistakes, starting by not knowing anything, starting by being uncomfortable, and stepping courageously into that space and building a practice for yourself and your team. So don't think of innovation as light bulbs going off in people's heads, which is how most people and most of our sort of imagery and iconography around innovation shows up. It isn't light bulbs going off in people's heads. It's actually people being able to listen to each other and understand what matters to each other, both on a micro level, on a one-on-one level, and on a macro level in terms of markets and opportunities. If you go to Google and you type in innovation, or you type in what is innovation and you type images, you will get pages and pages and pages of light bulbs. So we use the icon of a light bulb, and I've used it in some of my thumbnails for these videos, but we use the icon of a light bulb as a sort of shorthand for ideas, innovation. Innovation is an awful lot more than just the ideation process. If you're interested in creating innovation within and encouraging innovation within your team, and hopefully you are because that's what this video is about and that's why you've come here, one of the most important things that you can do and one of the most generative things that you can do is you can make a shift away from compliance to commitment for your team. And what I mean by that is, instead of them being order takers and waiting to be told what to do, which a lot of us fall into, particularly in the early stages of our careers, you create an opportunity for people to actually step up, make offers, make commitments, design with you in a way that allows you to be able to lead people who are much, much more autonomous than they would necessarily be without being given the permission that you're going to give them to be able to make real commitments that matter to them. What happens in that magical and very simple little process? It seems like a simple process, but it's actually a very complex process, and it takes patience and it takes a lot of learning on your behalf as a leader. But what happens in that apparently simple process of helping people step up and really make commitments to each other, make commitments to you, make offers to you, make offers to each other, is that people begin to develop a sense of autonomy, and they also begin to listen to each other in a way that they would not have done before. So if we're all focused on the traditional way that we do work, which is we are passing information back to each other, back and forth to each other at a furious pace, we're lobbing stuff over the wall to one department, we're getting lobbed at ourselves from another department, what we miss is we miss the opportunity to actually really be able to deeply listen to each other, make commitments to each other that are personal, that matter, that take care of the other person, that deliver value for the other person. Once you start cooking that inside your organization, you're not just encouraging innovation, you're actually creating a generative capacity inside your org or inside your team that will allow you ultimately to be able to innovate. It might be incremental innovation to begin with, and ultimately, as the team matures, as you mature in your practice, it will be potentially a leapfrog or even maybe a moonshot innovation. But have the humility and the discipline, as you have done in other things that you have learned from the beginning, whether it was learning to play the piano, play a musical instrument, play the violin, do yoga, practice football, climb mountains, whatever it is that you're doing, you started as a humble beginner. Think of yourself as a beginner in this space, and as you work through the process, you are looking to build capacity. You've got to start small. You start with the small incremental innovations. You begin to build the shared language and the shared interpretation and the common understanding. And what you do from there is entirely up to you in terms of your ability to be able to do real innovation and potentially moonshot innovation. One of the things I've found, particularly when leading less experienced teams and looking to grow them, and hopefully you're somewhere in that process and you know you've got a team that has a lot of potential, is I really encourage people to make concrete offers rather than make suggestions. So suggestions are fabulous things. It means someone's paying attention, someone's listening, someone wants to make things better. And lots of times as leaders, particularly if we've got a lot on our plates, we can actually experience that as a complaint, as someone saying something isn't working. If you can step yourself back from that and you can listen it as someone trying to make things better, someone suggesting a better way to do things, your opportunity with that person who's sticking their head above the parapet and putting their hand up and really looking to be able to make things better for themselves and the people around them, and hopefully for you as well, what you can do is you can encourage them to make offers. Now, the practice of making offers I've discussed in a few of the other videos that I've done, but what it is really is it's moving away from the I can help, moving away from the complaining, moving away from the wishful thinking, I wish somebody would fix this process, it's broken, to somebody who actually takes the time, does the listening, does their homework, and comes out to you with saying, I think I can offer to fix this, to improve this, to make this better, to innovate this. And in that moment, you have someone who cares deeply. And if you recognize them as someone who cares deeply and someone who listens well, then what you're doing as a leader is you're what I refer to as coaching to the 25%. That person is going to lead some work. It might be just for a short period of time. It could be a long period of time. It doesn't matter. But for a short period of time, they're potentially going to lead a small project that will give them the sense of being an innovator inside your team. And what it'll also do is it will get them into the habit of treating you like a customer and making offers to you and making commitments that they will deliver on something powerful. that is the beginning of them learning how to be able to listen, how to be able to build trust with other people inside their organization or their team, and how to be able to make change happen, how to be able to do beginning innovation in a way that they will build that generative capacity as time goes by. There's a lot of conversation at the moment about safe spaces, and lots of people are discovering that work can actually be kind of punitive if they're not working in an environment where they're encouraged to speak up, where they can feel safe speaking up, and they feel at risk if they're going to do that. One of the things that I found that is incredibly important from the perspective of innovation is to be able to create an environment where people are able to point to and declare breakdowns. Now, again, I talk about breakdowns in a number of other videos, but the thing about this is breakdowns happen. They happen recurrently, they happen regularly, they're part of being human, they're part of being alive. And I'm sure you can remember one that happened to you recently. But the thing about breakdowns is if we punish the person who makes the declaration of the breakdown, rather than seeing that as someone caring and someone wanting to make change happen and wanting to innovate their way out of a problem, what we're doing is we're creating an environment where people will just shut down and stop talking about things. Declaring breakdowns, identifying breakdowns, resolving breakdowns is a practice among many other innovation practices, but it is absolutely a core one, and one that if you can encourage your people to be able to identify them and not take it as criticism and not take it as a personal attack, but take it as an opportunity to be able to do the dance of innovation better together, to be able to build trust with people together, to be able to make new offers to your cross-functional partners within the organization, what you'll discover is those breakdowns are really windows of opportunity for incremental innovation that can make a big difference to what it is that your team is doing. Trust is one of the absolute foundational elements of innovation. And if you read about some of the great innovators and the persistence that they had, Thomas Edison is one of the ones that comes to mind, and he did thousands and thousands of experiments before he ever came to the light bulb. But what he did was he trusted the process. He trusted the people he was working with. He trusted the mathematics. He trusted the science, and he trusted that he could make this happen. So as we go through that process, we can trust other people around us because our technology is now so much more complex. We need multiple different experts in a room to be able to have any kind of innovation happen really successfully. We have to learn how to be able to trust each other. We have to learn how to be able to coordinate with each other. In the absence of that happening, you're never going to get that co-invention, that interdisciplinary co-invention that will actually lead to the level of innovation that you're ultimately hoping to get to. So as you build innovation within your team and encourage innovation within your team, make the conversations about trust explicit. Begin to build it intentionally, explicitly, consciously yourself, and begin to reflect on what it is that you're doing and how to communicate that to your team. If you make those conversations explicit, what you will find is trust becomes the foundation for a lot of new innovation that is just bubbling below the surface, waiting to come to the foreground and waiting to happen. When someone steps forward in your organization with a new offer, and that new offer might sound wild and crazy, but many times it has the kernel of some really nice innovation in it. And remember, they're starting the practice, so we are doing small incremental innovations. Set your team up for success. Make sure that you're starting with something modest that allows them to be able to declare a win, and make sure that you're flying cloud cover for them in a way that they will actually win, and set their sights bluntly low enough as they get started so we can determine what a win looks like and feels like. And from there, you're building upwards. So as you start doing that and you see someone coming forward with an offer, what they're really coming forward with is a commitment to innovate, to do things differently. It's a tiny increment, but it's a huge stepping stone for them. So celebrate those offers and encourage those people then to go away and do more homework, do more reading, go to conferences, understand what's going on in the industry, and build their worldview or their perspective in a way that allows them to be able to move their innovation capacity to the next level. In my book, The Innovation Mindset, I talk about the ladder of innovation. And that ladder of innovation really looks at how do we start from broken silos to moving up to being global game changers in the innovation space. And it talks about these small incremental steps and the foundational practices that you need to have in order to be able to make them work. So I admire you enormously for asking this question and looking at how do you encourage innovation within your team. Remember to be realistic about your starting point. Be realistic about the fact that innovation is a practice. It's not a genius person coming in with a great idea. That will emerge over time as you build out the practices within your team. I have another very adjacent video to this, which is how do you encourage innovation at work? Talks about some of the adjacent but similar topics. It'll help expand your understanding of the question that you have asked. As you pursue this path of encouraging innovation in your team and building your own innovation capacity and innovation awareness, I have an innovation capacity assessment. There's a link in the comments below. I hope it is helpful for you. It was designed specifically to help people like you understand what they're starting with and begin to think about what are some of the questions you need to be asking yourself that I'm asking you in the assessment, so that you can begin to determine the capacity of your team and how you're going to grow and build that. Let me know how it works for you. I wish you the very best of luck with this. Take care.